This is a 2014 Jetta GLI with about 180,000 miles on it, and for the last 3 years, it has been broken thanks to some questionable DIY work. So in this video, we're gonna figure out all the problems this car has, and hopefully by the end, we'll actually fix it. Problem number one, battery completely dead. So let's jumpstart this piece of It's also gross in here, by the way. Gross, 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 because went to the mold factory. Problem number two, check engine lights on, thankfully, but also that was the only light on minus a light out indicator light, which you saw how trash the bumper was. I just tapped the paddle and the traction control and steering wheel light both came on right when I did that. Red flag number three, we have some high-speed tape on our intake, which means we have some questionable workmanship or questionable parts on this car. Red flag number four, we have bolts missing on our cam adjuster solenoid. It's also looking like it's been replaced at some point. And red flag number five, we have a brand new intake manifold on this car, and I'm noticing that one of the connectors is actually not plugged in all the way. Right here, you can see the lock is still up. So when you see stuff like that, where somebody's obviously been in an area, but there's still problems, you need to make a mental note of that, because usually the case is poor quality parts, incomplete replacement of said parts, or bad workmanship, or maybe all three. So you found 37 red flags wrong with your car, and you still don't know what is actually wrong with it. Our next logical step, of course, is gonna be to scan the car and see what, I don't know why I'm standing like this, just see what kind of faults this thing actually has in it. So this is a 2-liter turbo. One of the original concerns, intake manifold faults. They replaced the intake manifold, they tried to clear the faults, they wouldn't clear, or they kept coming back, I don't really know. So that's going to be the place that we start looking. With that, let's get the scan tool, plug it in, and see what our faults actually are. Otherwise, we're just guessing. Now, I've already taken a quick look at this car, right? Because we pointed out a few big red flags like, hey, I'm a problem. I'm duct taped on the intake. While this does a full vehicle scan and actually interrogates every module, I'm just gonna eyeball this a little bit. I have a theory on what actually happened, but I'm gonna hold that till we test it so I don't get ahead of myself. Actually, before we get too crazy, I'm going to put a bolt in this cam adjuster solenoid just to be sure we're not missing something easy and stupid and chasing our butts because there's a bolt missing. Score one fix. Installed bolt. The biggest thing when you have things like this, document what you find and try real hard not to freak out or get overwhelmed or get really stressed, because it's easy to do and that will send your diagnosis sideways. Wouldn't it be hilarious if this didn't even have a runner in it and it was just an empty intake manifold? You know what I'm gonna get out right now while I'm thinking about it? I bought this with my UTI Snap-on student discount. So this is a vacuum gauge. It'll show what your engine vacuum is. You can also apply vacuum and operate components. Okay, our scan is done. Let's see what we got. We have a lot of faults, no surprise there. 10 faults in our engine, intake manifold flap bank 1 stuck open. So that intake manifold flap runner has an RPM that it's designated to open or close at. I believe the normal position is closed, and then at 3,800 RPM, it's supposed to open. And we can test that with our measured values, and we'll do that in a minute. We have intake manifold bank 1 stuck closed. Maybe there's something in it. What do you guys think? How can it be stuck open and stuck closed at the same time? Misfire, 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 misfire. Intake manifold flap position sensor, implausible signal. Those three codes make me feel like maybe that intake manifold is actually the problem. Intake air temp sensor, G62, signal too high. App sensor, this negative 40 degrees Celsius generally means it's unplugged. Here's a fault that I've never seen before, and I gotta tell you, I'm not real excited about. This is stored in the transmission fluid pressure adaptation at limit. I don't like that at all. Got some ABS faults, low voltage, tire pressure. In fact, the majority of the rest of these faults very likely are going to point to low voltage situation or the missing bulbs up here in the front, because this is not even the right bumper cover for this car. you didn't catch that. Since what we had going on really pointed to an intake manifold issue, we're gonna start there. We had 3 faults, or maybe it was 4, related to intake manifold. We are going to go into measured values, runner control, intake manifold pressure raw value. Let's see if we can operate this manifold. Hearing something happen. I'm also watching the scan tool. We go from 0 volts and our runner controller actual goes to 0. How do we verify that it's actually opening? That's a great question. Let's see if we can pop this pressure sensor off, get a borescope down there, and let's see if we can see that manifold runner actually moving. To be fair, I don't know if this is actually gonna work. There's something. Oh, I see an intake valve. Oh, they're crusty as hell. Uh-oh. The runner, if I'm seeing intake valves, we're past the runner. Oh, there we go. Okay, I see it. Yep, it's moving. Okay, here's what we've learned. Our intake manifold opens when I force it open, right? I'm pumping up this little vacuum actuator and making it open. We saw it on the scan tool where it goes from 0% to 100%. So here's what I think we should actually do. Let's run the basic settings for the intake manifold and see if maybe that's all that it was. I doubt it, but if we don't do that, I think we're potentially setting ourselves up for failure later on. So we're gonna do that now. So I'm down here looking at some of the connectors to see if there's any like wires pinched or anything, which is a real possibility. And I see that right on top of the alternator. That's a snake shed. Needless to say, I'm done working on this car and we are going to burn it to the ground. Oh, I don't think this is causing our problem, but it sure isn't helping. If this were an airflow meter car, that would for sure be a real problem. There's absolute, Jesus, how much did he put on there? It's like a half a dang roll. Paul gives me a hard time about gaff tape, but at least I'm not doing stuff like this. Wouldn't it be hilarious if we didn't need this coupler on here at all? I hope this goes right on. Nah, it doesn't, it's too big. Although, if you really cram it in there, it's definitely not worse than it was. All right, this is not a problem to worry about right this minute. So the next thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna actually check our vacuum supply. While I was just saying to Ray, wouldn't it be hilarious if there was a dead snake in the intake manifold? I didn't find that, but what I did find is this unbelonging vacuum hose that goes into the cabin of the car, and I'm guessing that it is a boost tap. I'm gonna start the car. What I wanna check is I wanna check vacuum supply from our vacuum pump to our solenoid for our intake flap runner. There are rare circumstances where this line gets clogged up and it'll just deplete the vacuum supply down to the solenoid and then to the actuator. Because of the way that intake was, I'm wondering if maybe at some points it was pinching this line right here. Like you can see it's kind of pinched. I don't think any of that is the issue, but here's the deal. If you're doing something like this, diagnosing something, whatever, and you skip easy steps, you're probably gonna get burned eventually. Maybe not this job, maybe not the next job, but don't skip the easy stuff. This takes 2 seconds to check, and then you can check it off your list of, yep, good vacuum supply. Yep, vacuum hose is good. Yep, solenoid clicks. Yep, the actual flap inside the thing actually moves, right? All these little tests add up to a lot of information, so don't skip stuff like this. So here's our vacuum gauge with nothing connected. When I connect this line, which comes from our vacuum pump, watch what happens. We go all the way up. So our vacuum pump is pumping. We know our line is good, which means our supply to this intake runner solenoid is good. There's a small bit of rope hose, like a small piece of vacuum line that attaches to the solenoid. I'm gonna replace this with the one I have on there just to make sure that's not an issue. But I mean, that looks kind of sad. You can see it's all broken and swollen. So this is the car misfiring right now. I thought maybe it was because I was messing with that vac line, but I don't think so. I don't know why the fan's coming on. So I'm gonna go in now and make sure that our flap opens and closes under the car's power, not me like manually manipulating it. So we're gonna go back into the same measured values that we did before. Manifold, activation. And at 3,800 RPM, we should see that 0% go to 100%. Here's what we've learned. Our intake runner is doing something and seeing something. Our inputs to the runner are correct. Our activation of the solenoid and the vacuum diaphragm piece, the vacuum actuator, also functions. So where does that leave us? Well, We have a car that doesn't run right. We have hard intake manifold faults. We have me that's about to sneeze. Ray asked me a really good question. He said, when you get in a situation like this where nothing's really showing obvious wrong and you have a bunch of things happening, how do you begin to dissect these problems without just like getting overwhelmed? Well, the first thing is understand that you need to have some sort of a plan, right? Work easy to hard. Do all the things that you can do in under 2 minutes without taking a bunch of stuff apart first. I am going to take a step back. We're gonna do some visual inspections underneath. This car has aftermarket boost piping, so I wanna take a look at that. Now I will say this car sat for an unknown period of time, so we could be dealing with old gasoline, right? That could be part of our drivability concern. Well, I think we had a fault for the oil level sender, and I'm guessing that's why. Low boy problems. You know what I'm gonna do though, is I'm gonna unplug this, just on the off chance that we're getting some kind of backfeed. What else do we got? Here is that vac line that I found up top that didn't belong, the rope hose. It goes to this boost tap right here. Another really common thing that I've seen, and it's not directly related to those faults, especially on lowered cars that are banged up, is they'll hit something on the core support and they'll bust this and it'll break the charge cooler. And that'll cause a huge boost leak, which I don't think we have, but seeing how we have the wrong bumper cover and all this stuff is kind of sad down here, I'm not ruling it out. But, oh, I found one potential problem. So I found that guy. Not the best repin job I've ever seen. So I'm pretty sure we had an intake air temp sensor fault. First of all, that's not where that belongs. Oh, well, now we know why we have the fault. Turns out trying to make a wiring repair a centimeter from the damn connector is not the way to do it. Let's unwind this. Why is this like this? Whatever happened to this car, right? Because it's got some front end damage. Must have ripped these wires out. I just don't know why you'd cut it so short. All this is drive-by feel. There's a hole in the heat shield. I don't know if they put that in there when they did the downpipe instead of just clocking the downpipe differently. What's interesting though is we also have like some pretty decent parts, right? Like Bilstein coilovers, again, spun all the way down. So we definitely have some impact damage. You can see that that's like the actual metal bumper. It's all mooshed in. So that sort of explains why we're seeing wrong bumper, some haggard bits, a broken core support. Oh, jeez Louise. I still am gonna put a battery charger on it because that's like I have to, but now we don't need that other one. What I did was I snatched the battery out of that red Mark 6. So rather than screwing around with it, we're gonna put this thing in here. Always something. This is a problem that should have never been a problem in the first place. But yes, this is one problem solved. The car had intake manifold issues. Then they put an intake manifold in it, still had intake manifold issues. What I don't know, don't worry about that. What I don't know is it the same intake manifold issues as it had before? So this is not like the CCTA where all the manifolds failed, right? This is the little bit newer style where the fuel rail bolts to the head. It's under recall, which this car has an open recall on it. But what I wanted to make sure was when they installed this new intake manifold, that the 3 vacuum fittings on the solenoid are all correct. I'm gonna pump this solenoid up and then we're gonna output test it and I'm gonna see if our vacuum supply goes. Our relay should click and we should lose this vacuum. Okay, so they had it hooked up right. Anytime you guys message me is like, hey Charles, I just did fill in whatever job and now I have a problem. This is what I usually have you do. Go back and double check all your workmanship, right? Odds are something we did has an influence on the car. So where does that leave us? Well, potentially a bad new intake manifold, but you'd think something in that measured value we would see, or like the flap wouldn't open. We've confirmed that. If this were a car that used engine-derived vacuum to operate this vacuum actuator, I would say perhaps our poor running and misfiring was actually causing the intake runner issues, but I don't think that's the case here with this one. It seems like this might be a weird pivot, but I'm gonna pull a spark plug or 2, or maybe all 4 even. I wanna make sure we're not missing like drivability issues causing intake issues, rather than intake manifold issues causing drivability issues. Ugh. I don't know what it is with these spark plugs, but they are unhappy friends. Listen, if this happens on your car, Just run that spark plug back in, don't mess with it. So they definitely look sad. This would be a good time to replace these. If I had a set, I would. It's not like we have a broken plug or... I'm gonna re-gap the spark plugs, put them back in. Especially with the intake manifold, we've kind of proven mechanically everything works. We need to deeper dive, I think, electrically. So even though we saw like the flap move and it account for it, since this one's working, it changes a little bit. Oh, nice. Look at where they painted it. Looks like I painted it. So I'm just gonna tape this bumper cover. It's like a poor man's drift stitches. There we go. Here, let's do a cross one, just because reasons. Oh, that's good. That's real good. I think we have reached the point in time where clearing all our faults probably makes a lot of sense. Something we have yet to really do is let the car get up to temperature. We've ran it a little bit, but not long enough to get up to temp. So while that's happening, I'm just gonna poke through some measured values and see if anything jumps out. You may or may not hear the high pressure fuel pump solenoid. It's quiet, and then it goes grrrr, and then it's quiet, and then it starts freaking out, going like rapid fire, really loud. Because we have no fuel-related fault codes, that doesn't mean we don't have a fuel-related problem. Just to be sure that VCDS wasn't losing its mind or having a problem, I hooked up OBD11 and it did nothing different. So this is just a text with Paul. Oh. It's not even OBD11. He said, "Fix that piece of crap, you ding-dong." That's not what he said, but he said he's on his way to put a new manifold on for us. So what I'm gonna do now is with the key on, engine off, I'm gonna play around with this manifold. In a perfect world, I would compare the readings of this car to a known good car, right? We snap the throttle, we watch what the voltages do. Does it go from 100 to 0, 0 to 100 like ours is? Or is it backwards? Do we actually have a bad manifold? Do we have a bad sensor? Because I've actually seen sensors in these manifolds, which you can replace separately, go bad. Or do we have a wiring problem to the ECM or a bad ECM? Maybe we have a bad ground right here and that's impacting the intake manifold runner. Even though it's working, even though it's doing something, the ECM may not be getting the signal that it wants. Is this being a little... Oh yeah, it's like screwed to the ECM. Got one. I can tell you what we're not putting back in here. It's frickin' tamper proofs. So we've ran through all the tests that we possibly could before we really had to start diving deep into situations like wiring. And even though we were seeing something happen on the scan tool, I don't have anything to compare that to say, yes, this is operating exactly how it's supposed to be. If my Golf R was not RS3 swapped, we would just use that and check those measurements, but that ship set sail a long time ago. So here's what I did. I had to cut the security bracket bolts off to gain access to the ECM. We have our ECM connector here, and we're going to just check the resistance from the ECM connector to our sensor for our intake manifold runner. And we should have 0.5 ohm resistance, give or take, 0.1, 0.2. So we're good. That's gonna check the signal wire from the ECM to the sensor. We're gonna turn the key on. What we're gonna check now is the voltage at this sensor, because we should have right about 5 volts. So there you go, 4.99. So what does that say for us? That says that our ECM is good because it was seeing something happen, right? So we know we're probably good there. Also, if it's not the ECM, that's a really big leap. So we're gonna call the ECM good for right now. We know our wiring from power, from ground, and from ECM, all is good, at least sitting here not running. So based on our diagnostic flow chart, what makes sense is to put a new sensor on it. Now, if this were a CCTA, we would be buying a whole new intake manifold, but luckily, these sensors are available separately. So I'm gonna get a sensor coming. You don't have to wait for any of that, because watch this. It's gonna be like, I'm gonna get the sensor ready, and then I'm gonna do this cool thing, and then we'll transition, and I'll have it in my hand. Ready? Are you ready? 3, 2, 1. Okay, a period of time later, I think it's been like 2 weeks, we have our sensor. Now, this is not a brand new sensor. This is a used one that I got for free. The cool thing about this intake manifold over like the CCTA is you can put a sensor in it without replacing the whole manifold. So I'm going to install this and we're gonna cross our fingers that it actually fixes it, because I'm always a little uneasy with goofy cars like this. I'm gonna stuff something down in the oil filter holes so that we don't lose anything in there. There we go. Now this one looks pretty new. I'm quite confident that this manifold was also new. This is the test one that I got from another intake manifold. I actually got the whole manifold, so hopefully this goes well. Get that, plug that guy in, and let's move over to our scan tool. We don't need to start the car just yet. Actually, let's go ahead and put this in so I don't start the car with the filter off. We'll just put that back on. Remember, even clearing it, that code came right back. You can see it right here on the screen. So let's see what happens when we clear code. No fault returned. Could it be that this new intake manifold that they got had a bad sensor in it? Possible, especially with a code that comes back without the car running. Do a couple key cycles, at least 2, and make sure that that code doesn't come back. Shut it off and turn it back on. Gateway install list, our ECM, and our transmission computer as no fault stored because this is a DSG. So we fixed it. Do we need to do anything else? I think we need to start this car up and see how it runs before we call it fixed. Could it have been running poorly because it was missing 2 bolts for the cam adjuster and there was a bad intake manifold flap? That kind of would be wild because it really does seem like it's running okay right now. Let's jump into our scan tool and make sure we don't have any fault codes stored. No fault codes. So remember, our intake flap opens at 3,800 RPM. So I'm gonna crack the throttle, wind the car all the way out to as high as it'll go, which is about 4,000 RPM when you're not driving, and see if we get our fault back that way. No fault code stored. I think we actually fixed this car, which is pretty awesome. Now, is there other things wrong with this car? Yeah. Of course, remember our duct taped intake, our O2 spacer, the whole busted up underneath. We got other problems with this car. But as far as what was actually wrong with it when we got it, I think we're good. I think this brings us to a solution on our GLI. It's crazy that this car has kind of been down for so long over a sensor that was bad in probably a brand new intake manifold. I've never seen that particular failure, but it does go to show you that while it's not very common, you can get bad parts right out of the box. So I have a couple of questions for you. One, how could we have diagnosed this faster or more thorough or with more confidence? The one thing I can say I think we could have done better is while I was ohming the wires out, I think we could have load tested those wires and been a little bit more confident about the integrity of said wires. But otherwise, we followed the logical steps and we got where we needed to be, and now our intake manifold system is happy. Is the car good otherwise though? No, not including this where the Bondo is just popping right off. The crusty intake manifold and a whole bunch of other stuff. This car really does have some things that need significant attention. So what do I do with this thing? Do I take the loss and sell it and somebody get a screaming deal on a fine German engineered GLI? Or do we do something else? Do we gut it for parts? Do we sell it off? It would be a shame for a 30th anniversary GLI to just get smushed, but it's kind of a shame that it's in the condition that it's in now. So maybe we lift it and make it a rallycross car. I have no idea, but what I do know is it's out of here because I got other stuff I'd much rather be doing. So with that, I'm also out. Have an awesome day, and I'll talk to you again next time, and hopefully we can find something to do fun with this car.